Hello everyone and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sarah.
And I say this every week, but football has footballed and we have so much content for you this week.
We do. But can I amend that slightly? The WSL has footballed.
Yeah, okay, specifically English football has footballed. And so much has happened. So we've got so much for you guys.
Hang on to your seats, everybody, and enjoy the ride, because it's just going to be one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other.
Exactly. So just to give you the docket, as Sarah calls it, we are going to be talking the Woso derby. Of course, it is Arsenal versus West Ham is our game of the week. Not just because of that, because that was a 7-goal thriller. We're also going to briefly touch on Chelsea versus Brighton. Brighton are the second team to take points off of Chelsea this season. How does this play into the title race? Girma came off injured. What does this mean for both Chelsea and the US national team? Are we about to see nukes at dawn? We will then, as ever, take you around the world. And then, as I said, English football be footballing. So we're going to hit some points for you about some of the crazy news that has happened this week. I say this week, it's been 4 days. This is all kicked off.
And speaking of, let's just start there, because not to give away the time and day that we record, but just about 16 minutes ago, Yuki Nagasato, Japanese international, tried and true legend of the NWSL, has announced that she will be retiring from professional football altogether. Is that right, Allie? You were the one who looked at the Instagram post, not me, actually. I did not confirm if it was professional or just international.
No, officially, she is done. She is hanging up her boots completely. She had sort of stepped away from the national team a little bit and now has officially said, this is my last season. I'm done. Thank you so much. Thank you to the clubs that have had me. But this is it. This is us. This is done.
So actually, let's just go through a couple of things that she's been able to do, because it's incredible. How many years has she been playing professional soccer, Allie? She started in, you said 2002?
2002, and is officially retiring in 2025. She has had a 23-year career, which in footballing terms is insane.
Absolutely wild. She will turn 38 this year. She made her first appearance with the Japanese international team, with the senior international team, that is, in 2004. She's played for teams like Chelsea, Wolfsburg, Frankfurt, the Chicago Red Stars, Racing Louisville, back to the Chicago Red Stars, Houston Dash, and she is officially retiring as a member of the Houston Dash. Just an incredible career. I don't know how else to say. A legend of the NWSL. She made every team she was on so much better, and that midfield presence that she brought, unmatched. Okay, before we dive into the rest of it, because we're going to just dive head first, big swan dive into the WSL, and we will, of course, be starting it off with what we're calling the Women's Soccer Show Derby, which is West Ham versus Arsenal. Spoiler alert, Sarah won. But we'll come on to that. Before we do, Allie's favorite topic.
No, before we do.
This is actually funny. I will say this, though. Hold on. No, you want to go?
Yeah,
okay.
Because I promised Mike I would do this.
Allie literally just put their finger up to their mouth to shush me.
I promised Mike to do this. So I'm just unzipping my West Ham hoodie.
Oh no.
What is under it? Oh, would it be a Japan national team jersey?
A beautiful one at that.
Oh, yes, it would be. So.
Oh my God. And this is all to say what, Allie?
All to say what? Allie was right. Sarah was wrong. Japan won the Super League.
That's right. I said it was the smarter pick, and you took it with the smarter pick. I was going to say, the fun part about this is that I'm always like, Allie, let's talk international. You're like, I don't want to talk international. And this time you're like, we should talk She Believes. And I was like, I don't think we should talk She Believes.
I wonder why.
No, it was just because I was outdated, you guys. It happened a week ago. Were you surprised, speaking of She Believes, since we just talked about how Japan won it, were you surprised by the Colombia-Australia result? Colombia won 2-1. That was effectively the third place game.
It was the third place game. I thought that Colombia were going to take it. I'm surprised it was as close as it was, considering how dire straits Australia had been. So that was more of a surprise to me that they actually managed to get a goal, and it was like level for a bit, and then Colombia managed to play it out. So I was surprised at that, but the table has finished in the way I thought it was going to.
Yeah, both games were 2-1, but Japan handled the U.S. very, very well. This bodes really well. We knew Japan were on a trajectory. Dare I say they look better than they did at the World Cup?
I stand by that because it's that process. It's the time together. We've talked about it that in the unders they were winning things, and those unders players have now aged up and they're now in the main squad. And they are playing absolutely beautiful football. They won it, like I said they were going to, through the midfield, beating the US midfielders. So I'm feeling quite smug right now.
So if you take one thing away from this episode, just know that last week, Allie was right for the first time in the history of the women's soccer show. I'm just kidding. If you take one thing away, know that Allie was right. And now we're done with international because WSL has kicked back off. We are in March officially. Oh my God.
No, but just because of a bit of self-promotion, obviously England played in the last couple of weeks. If you want a full Woso Show breakdown analysis, head over to our Patreon because me and Mike did a special episode of The Other 8 called The Full English, where we break down what happened with England and what went so wrong against Portugal but so right against Spain. So if you want more in-depth analysis, head over to our Patreon.
Here I am. I was trying to move on from international. One question. Here's my one question for you, because I asked you, is it time to sound the alarm bells? And that was in between. That was when England had just drawn with Portugal, and it was before the Spain game. England have now beat Spain. You said it was time to sound the alarm bells. Is that still true after the win against Spain?
I think so.
Okay, listen to The Other 8 for more.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to The Other 8 for more because we do talk about it.
All right, it was the Women's Soccer Show Derby, as it's known commonly around the world. That's right, Arsenal against West Ham, and I mentioned the spoiler alert. Arsenal and Sara won, but I think this was game of the year so far, game of the season so far, match of the season so far for the WSL. What an absolute blast. I wrote on our notes, Sara wins, but maybe Allie gets the moral victory, ? Would you agree?
I'll take that. I will take that. No, it was a fantastic game. This is what the WSL should be, which is teams going toe-to-toe with each other, challenging each other. No walkover games. You know, am I sad that West Ham didn't take the 3 points? Yes. Do I think it was just a fantastic game and we shook some things up? Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you weren't watching, Arsenal took down West Ham 4-3 in a absolute stunner because they were down 3-1 at one point. Absolutely game of the weekend, game of the season. And if you're watching this live, I'm sure you've already thanked yourself a million times for doing so because wow, wow, wow. And you were not just watching it in real time. You were watching it in real time in person from the stands. And I said this to you before we hit record, and then we were like, stop. Let's just talk about it on air. There were a lot of West Ham fans there.
It was probably our biggest away, traveling allocation that I've been to. And maybe because it was local, maybe it was, because it was Arsenal. But yeah, we were filling out their South Terrace, annoying Arsenal fans. It was great fun. And I had the great pleasure to watch the game entirely with West Ham legend Kate Longhurst, who had come down to
that's so cool
to support the girls. And I was like, just turned to my right, and I was like, "Hello, Kate." They let anyone in now, don't they? And she was like, "Yes, they let you in." I was like, "Fair,
fair play." What a game! It was so loud in that stadium. Allie, I want to hear your thoughts because it was a roller coaster, and I don't know how many beers in you were, but I want to hear the ride that you took emotionally.
I think it was more the fact that when we went 2-0 up, all my friends were texting me going, "What the hell's going on in your game?" I'm like, "Do not jinx us." And then when we lost, I was like, "I told you not to jinx us. I told you." Yeah, so it was crazy because you know what? I went in that game, and you can ask anybody else talking to, I was like, "Well, we're going to get battered. We're going to absolutely get battered."
Anybody who's watched the WSL was like, well, West Ham are going to get battered.
Yeah, and it's and I love my team. And then I look at the team we put out, and we hadn't put out all of our starters because a lot of them were coming back from the States because they'd been in She Believes or they had been over with Canada, in the case of Zadorsky, winning the Pintar Cup for silverware for Casey Stoney. And so we hadn't put out our strongest squad because a lot of our players have been on internationals. And so I was like, oh, we're going to get so battered. And then Belgian superstar Amber Tiziak happened, who has just come back from a red card ban from being sent off in the semi-final of the Subway Cup against Chelsea. And what a redemption she came on. Literally tore your guys' midfield apart, tore your defenders apart, and got 2 goals very quickly. And we were stunned. We were stunned into silence.
I'm also going to add in the young German international that you signed recently. I think she's only played in 5 matches so far with West Ham. Martinez.
Shakira.
Shakira Martinez had an incredible game.
She was, again, phenomenal. She's a young player, so there's still some edges that need to be smoothed out. But her goal, the way she turned that midfield to make it 3-1, it was
Listen to me, though.
Beautiful.
We need to break down that goal because all credit to her. I thought this while I was watching it because I was watching this as somebody who was mainly watching Arsenal, as you were probably mainly watching West Ham. Like, neither of us were watching it as a neutral. And so when I saw that goal happen, and for those who didn't see, I won't talk through the whole goal, but she basically got the ball on a half turn, split 2 defenders, and with that split beat 3 defenders and tucked it away beautifully. And what she did, so what I saw was Steph Catley, who was playing in the center back role alongside Leah Williamson. Steph Catley she is an outside back. Her skills are wasted as a center back. So I can't fully blame her, but they were way too far apart. Kim Little got beat on pace alone. Pace and then Catley's positioning being off. That's what completely wiped out the Arsenal defense and allowed for that. But hey, all credit to West Ham. Mistakes like that were Arsenal was forced into mistakes like that because of the positions that West Ham put themselves in. Like, Martinez put herself in between the lines right there, and Arsenal didn't know how to handle it. I would say, that's the best game I've seen West Ham play maybe ever. They looked fantastic.
Hands down, same. I was like, this bodes really well for the end of our season, and hopefully we can capitalize that for next season. But I'm excited for the rest of our season if we can carry on playing like that.
Well, it bodes well, certainly, for what you guys have coming up, because I don't envy West Ham. They kicked back off after international break, of course, playing Arsenal. And here's what their next 4 games look like. City, Tottenham, Chelsea, United. So in 5 games straight, they'll go Arsenal, City, Tottenham, Chelsea, United.
I don't count Tottenham in that. I'm sorry. Tottenham are so shaky. We beat them in the
4 out of 5
in the Subway Cup.
That's still insane. You're taking on the top 4 teams in the league in 5 weeks. That's crazy. All right. Let's talk about those 5 minutes, because I say those 5 minutes because it was 3-1, and within the course of 5 minutes, Arsenal scored 3 goals, and that was it. That was the final score, 4-3. It broke West Ham. I could not believe what I was seeing. So the first goal in the 5 minutes was Katie McCabe doing very Katie McCabe things, kind of taking things into her own hand. I do think that the subs played a role in that, but I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty because
I want to talk about it.
Okay, you want to talk about it?
I do, because I just want to name one sub, which was the difference, and the biggest difference, which is what we couldn't handle and it turned it around for Arsenal, was the KCC. As soon as Kim Little came off, Votley, who had a horrendous game.
I would argue, I love Kim Little, but she also had a horrific game. The two of them in the middle did, yeah.
Both of them were shocking, and I had some drinks with some Arsenal fans afterwards, and they turned around and said exactly the same thing. Yeah. They were like, they are not games that them two want to watch back.
No.
It was a terrible game for them. As soon as Cooney Cross came on,
and Caitlin
that was
Ford.
the difference.
No, I think it's both. I do. Obviously, it's Cooney Cross, and she's grown so much as a player because when she first joined Arsenal, there was zero way she was going to be able to hold down that center midfield as the sole 6 by herself. No chance. And coming into that game, she was on it. She was on top of everything, but I think it was I think it was the combo. It was the addition because it also brought in an attacking player. So you're taking 2 number 6s off basically, or a 6 and an 8, and you're putting in a 6 and then an attacking kind of wing player in Caitlin Ford. And I think it was the combination of both of them that really made the difference. And that's Arsenal's starting lineup, right? We're assuming that they weren't playing because they were both coming off of a lot of minutes of international play. They were both playing for Australia in the She Believes Cup, and we think that that's what happened. But yes, it was a shocking difference, and that was the inflection point. The subs were made, boom, 3 goals, right? That first goal, I mean, also partially you could say Caitlin Ford was involved in this, but Katie McCabe doing Katie McCabe thing. She takes it end line, ridiculous angle. That ball should never have gone in the goal. She basically shot it from the end line, and it went in the goal. That was a positioning error on behalf of the West Ham goalkeeper, but nevertheless a goal. And that's where it just kind of broke, I think, for West Ham, because then immediately on the kickoff, Arsenal get a corner kick, and Leah Williamson, what did I text you? I was like, you should not leave Leah Williamson unmarked. But like, I can't take credit away from her. That was a massive header goal all the way out at the 18, redirecting it with that much power. It still goes in the net. Leah Williamson looked like the old Leah Williamson, player of the match for me on the Arsenal side. Incredible.
And also had an iconic celebration.
Yeah.
Sam Kerr will give you a backflip. Leah Williamson will give you a roly-poly.
So what broke? What broke for West Ham?
I think it was pace. It was like they weren't expecting to deal with Cooney Cross and Ford. And then as soon as it got to 3-3, we let our heads drop and we were doing stupid things because the 4th goal was a penalty from the most obvious handball. I was like, Kirsty Smith. And like I said, I was watching the game with Kate Longhurst, who played with Smith at West Ham. And at first we were getting really annoyed at the referee because he called it really late. Like really late, like literally game had carried on, and like it's an obvious hand. Like I'm not saying it was never a penalty, it was so a penalty, but he called it so late, and it wasn't until the Arsenal players started yelling at him and the crowd started yelling at him that he actually called it, and that was a big problem for both sides. Very late calls, and then so we was watching the replay on our phones, and Kate Longhurst's words were, "Oh Smudge, what did you do? Just take it to the face, like every defender."
I feel so bad for her because it was clearly instinct. You know, you can see in the replay, there was no thought about it. Like, she couldn't have stopped it if she wanted to. Like, she did it and then realized she did it. It was pure instinct. And you got to feel for her because that was what ended up being the difference maker and why West Ham did not take any points away.
Yeah, and also Van Domselaar, like, because if you look at the very last,
there were some big saves on both ends, though.
Yeah,
really,
in the 9 minutes of extra time, how West Ham didn't get that ball over that line, and it was because of
idea
her.
how. Yeah,
and again, Kinga, she made a couple of positional errors, but was phenomenal and kept a lot of Arsenal goals. Like we said, it was a brilliant match to watch.
It was so fun. And honestly, I would say even though you know the score, if you're listening to this and you're like, that sounds like a fun game, go watch it. It's still fun. I highly recommend it. Great goalkeeping on both sides. All right, to close it out, I have one question for you. And that is, as a West Ham fan, what was your general sentiment leaving this game? Were you feeling low? Were you feeling high? Because they played great despite the loss.
That was it. Do you know what? I was really positive because there's so many times you can say, "Oh, well, we played well, but we lost,"
right.
but
this time you really did play well.
Yeah, and it was like, and it was heartbreaking to lose, but at the same time, I'm like, all of the bits that we have been seeing West Ham try to do, they did this game, like getting the ball to Shakira, and like we said, Martinez scored an absolute belter. You know, Amber Tiziak, not when she wasn't scoring, was defensively insane. You know, Sayers, who has been a bit shaky and has scored a couple of own goals, was insane keeping Arsenal out. Like, when I say we played well, we played phenomenal. And so that gives me so much hope because, we've got some tough games coming up, but then our last 3 games are all games for teams that are around us currently in the league. So it's going to be Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, and Leicester is the last game of the season. And that gives me good hope because I feel like we could beat any of them on any given day if we play like that.
It really did all click. All right, speaking of the table, let's move it along. We're not going to dive too much into this game, but there's a couple little things we have to cover because That was not the only kind of crazy result that we saw. Brighton drew with Chelsea 2-2. Brighton were in the lead at halftime. Lauren James tucked a goal away to equalize in the 61st minute. That was the only goal of the second half. It is entirely controversial in and of itself because a lot of people think that she was offside and it was not called. At this point, we can't even talk about VAR or offside anymore. We've had that conversation far too many times, but that needed to be said, right? You got into it with some Chelsea fans in a fun way.
Oh, I did.
In a fun way. In a fun way.
It was very much, and as Sarah put it, it was like when they were coming for me on Twitter, they were like, they don't know how many beers you've had. I was like, yeah, exactly. So I was doing some stuff for the WOSO, and all I said was, I was like, great result for Brighton, the second team to take points off of Chelsea this season.
All factual. Objective.
All factual.
Factual.
Objective. True. And then a Chelsea fan went, Allie, go to bed for F's sake. And I was
also, though, probably like a good piece of advice. I don't know where you were at that point in the night, but I'm guessing you probably could have gone to bed.
I could have gone to bed. So my response was, sorry, currently at Boreham Wood, we're about to watch West Ham Arsenal.
My favorite thing is that they knew it was you. They were like, Allie, get out of here. Go to bed.
Yeah. They were like, good. And then, because that was their response after when I was like, sorry, I'm at Boreham Wood watching West Ham Arsenal, and that's probably not advisable. I go to sleep right now. And their response was, no, it was you. And I'm like, yeah.
All right, the only other thing we need to talk about is that in this game, Naomi Girma, the one and only, the love of all of our lives, the next Becky Sauerbrunn. Well, I can't even say that. She's her own self. She's not the next anything. She's Naomi Girma. She got her first start in a Chelsea shirt, which was much anticipated by everybody around the world. And she came off early. She was expected to come off early and not get a full 90 in her first minute, or in her first game, but she came off early due to a calf injury. Let me tell you, I did not get to watch this game. And when I saw that, because I opened Instagram and I saw many outlets basically just reporting that Naomi Girma came off because she was injured. I will say my immediate thought as a U.S. Women's National Team fan was very defensive. I was like, they threw her into the fire too quickly. This should not have happened. They pushed her into the game too fast, and now she's injured. This is all Chelsea's fault. Little did I know it was a tackle that could have happened at any point in time. But what really tickled me is that I went to the comments, and like the third comment down, somebody kind of just like encapsulated all of my feelings and wrote, oh dear, this is going to start World War III.
That is hilarious.
Because it's true. Like if Chelsea did throw Naomi Girma back into the fire too quick and it caused an injury, that would be it. That would be it. U.S. Women's National Team fans would never forgive.
I agree. However,
that's
y'all
not what happened.
I'm
not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying y'all have got nothing coming up, so it don't matter. Like, really.
It matters.
No, I thought she did really well. To be fair, for her first 60-odd minutes, you could tell it was a learning curve for her because the WSL is very different from the NWSL and it's a very different way of playing. But I thought she adapted quite well. It's unfortunate she pulled up with an injury. And had to come off. Again, another Allie was right moment, which also went out on social media because I turned around to Sarah and went, well, Brighty will get dropped. And I was like, no. Out of the centre-back pairing, it will be Bjorn that gets dropped.
God, we've been over this.
But I was right
again. Recap this for everybody who didn't listen to that exact episode. I was then like, you are right. But based on performance, perhaps Bright should be the one that does. We know she's not going to. Anyways, I agree with the learning curve
right.
that
it doesn't
you said.
Happen very often.
I agree with the learning curve. This is why players like her want to go play for clubs like Chelsea, is because she grew up in the United States. She played college soccer here. She played in the NWSL, and this is the next challenge. She's basically dominated at every single level in the United States that she's been at, and now she gets to go challenge herself with something new. And I have nothing but faith that she will dominate it and very quickly, because if there's one thing about Naomi Girma, she is one of the most intelligent and high IQ soccer players I think we've ever seen come through, and that's what makes her such a good defender. She reads it faster and sooner than anybody else does, so I'm really excited to see her grow once she gets healthy.
Yeah, I also just very quickly want to give a shout out to Brighton. I thought Brighton didn't let Chelsea breathe in this game at all. Like, you look at it, like, they didn't have much possession, they didn't have many shots, but what they did with them were fantastic. And in the first 10, Chelsea couldn't get out of their own half because Brighton were on top of them and were absolutely, you know, it was a masterclass from Brighton, to be honest, and it's like, we've said before that Brighton had a great start and then they really dipped, but now we're starting to see a bit of growth back in Brighton, and there's that connection again, and they're putting out great football to watch as both a fan of Brighton as a neutral. It was a good game to watch because you honestly didn't know whether anybody could have nicked it at the end. Like, there was a goal that Millie Bright denied Fran Kirby.
Fran Kirby played a great game. Fran Kirby looked like the Fran Kirby of old. It was amazing to see.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a great game as a neutral to watch because, honestly, any team could have nicked it at the end. Chelsea were battering Brighton's defences and they managed to hold up. And so, yeah, and it's exciting. And it does put a little bit of pressure on Chelsea for the title race.
Yeah, it really does. We were saying that if that goal had not stood and Brighton got the 3 points instead of just one, it would be really huge because right now in the title race, Chelsea are sitting 5 points ahead of United. But if that scoreline had gone differently and Brighton had gotten the 3 points, then Chelsea would be sitting just 4 points ahead of United with a head-to-head matchup coming up. So if United potentially, if that happened, this is all hypotheticals and scenarios that are never going to happen because that's not, the result. But this is fun anyways. If Chelsea had gotten 0 points off of Brighton and then United beat Chelsea, then there's just 1 point that separates United from Chelsea. And then all United have to really hope is that Chelsea draw one more time to at least bring them even on points. And that's not too much to ask for. So that was a really, really big result right there on both sides. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world. Starting off with Italy, we are now in the championship rounds to crown the winner of Serie A. This weekend saw a monumental game for Juve versus Roma, with Juve winning it 4-3. That scoreline sounds familiar, Allie. The other results, Fiorentina and Internazionale, was a more sedate affair, ending in a 0-0 draw.
To France, and Lyon have extended their lead by 8 points after their 4-0 win over Strasbourg. PSG nicked a 1-0 win to go into second, whereas Paris FC could only manage a 0-0 draw, falling to third. And over to Spain. Barcelona are 5 points clear at the top after their 8-1 win. Real Madrid are second after their win, but there is now a 15-point gap between second and third, where Atletico are currently lying. And finally to Scotland. Rangers drop down to third after their draw this weekend. Glasgow City go top with their 4-0 win over Motherwell. Hibernian go second after their 1-0 win over Celtic, who have now fallen to fourth.
And we're going to go back around the world, across the pond, hop another pond, and we end up back in England to continue to talk about the WSL because there is just so much to talk about. And we talked about some games from this past weekend, and this segment is going to be more news-oriented, I'll say. Is that a fair...
I would say so, because as we said, footballed in England.
Footballed in the WSL. Let's talk about the managers being sacked. That was plural. Managers being sacked. Allie, what happened? I think I know which one shocked you the most, so I'm going to guess after you say what happened.
So the first one that came out was Matt Beard has been let go from Liverpool. That was a big one. The timing of it was really weird because it was literally 2 days before or 3 days before their game against Crystal Palace, who we will come on to. It's after international break. It's after transfer window. Why now? Why is this the time?
Yeah, I would agree. Extreme. That was going to be my guess. That's the one that perplexes you the most. Is that accurate?
It does, because the thing with, look, I will hold my hands up. I'm not Matt Beard's biggest fan. I think he left West Ham under a bit of a cloud. He's not the manager for me, shall we say. However, I feel like he was taking Liverpool in a good place. They probably overachieved last season in their position, and it hasn't worked this season. But then they've been given the same budget to do more. So I don't feel like it's his fault. He is doing the best he can do with the money he's been given and the players he's been allowed to buy from Liverpool. If Liverpool want better results, then they need to start investing more, because apart from like Olivia Smith, who is a fantastic young talent, Liverpool haven't really been able to invest and grow as much as you may have wanted them to. So
I mean, for such a storied men's club, their lack of investment in the women's team historically has been astonishing. And where Liverpool sit in the table and what they've been able to do with what they have, I'm not sure how much further you can get with what you have.
exactly. So they haven't got a replacement for him. It looks like they've got an interim who was the assistant manager. She will be doing it for the rest of the season, and then they'll look at someone else. I know she wants the job permanently. Whether that's the way they're going to go, a bit like they did with Renee at Arsenal, I don't know. But that one, because there's no replacement, no nothing, it was literally he had to go. That's the most perplexing one. I'm bamboozled.
All right, and what were the other two?
The other one is Laura Kaminsky, who was Crystal Palace's manager. Now, she's the manager that got them up to the WSL in the first place, and again, it hadn't gone right, let's be honest. They are bottom of the table. They are favourites to be relegated at the moment, and it wasn't going right, but they were playing some good football. They were, and were unfortunate with certain results. You look at the Tottenham game with the fact that they got beat in the dying moments. They could have got something at Man United, but again, it was a last-minute goal. But this one feels very different because they announced their replacement the next day.
That feels like an inside job.
Exactly. So this one felt a bit disrespectful because literally it was announced she got announced the same day as Matt Beard. Everybody was joking, oh, Matt Beard's going to come to South London and try and save Crystal Palace.
Well, also they were about to play each other. So both teams sacked their managers. Yeah. It's like they got on the phone and be like, I'll do it if you do it right before the game. Okay, hang
Basically.
up, done. And then two teams who just sacked their managers played each other.
Exactly. So her replacement, and please forgive me because my Norwegian is not great, but her replacement is Leif Samerd, who has managed both the men's Norwegian team and the women's Norwegian team. So he has got a bit of pedigree. He's never really done club football, which is a very different beast from international football. So that concerns me. The fact that it was so instant, being like, we got rid of her one day and then literally the next day, welcome Leaf to Crystal Palace. Clearly they are trying to make them stay up because there is hope, because they are only 4 points adrift, and with Aston Villa's current performance, there is hope.
Could you imagine? This would be a great escape. And what is the opposite of the great escape if Aston Villa ends up going down?
Remember, Palace and Villa have got to play each other again. And Palace do have a couple of winnable games.
Allie, can you?
It could happen.
The reality of it is setting in, like, into my body and into my skin right now. And I have a smile on my face. I'm just in disbelief because I believe that Villa very well could go down, and that is unbelievable.
And then the other one, which was a bit shocking, which was from the Championship, is Remy Allen. Legend that is, has been let go from Southampton. It's probably because they have underperformed that they thought. I mean, the Championship is super close. Anybody who knows when we've talked about it, there's only something like 5 points between second and seventh at the moment. So, like, it is super close. They are currently seventh. She's only been there since August, so this feels like a very premature sacking that they clearly... Again, it feels like really weird, like, you're not going to get relegated. That's likely to be Portsmouth or Sheffield. Like, let her stick it out until the end of the season and then let her go. It just feels really weird to me that they've let it happen now. The timing of it's all weird because I'm like, why have you not done it during international break? Because then that will allow the new manager to, like, have time with contact with the players that haven't gone on international break. Yeah. And then they didn't. It just, the timing of all of them were really weird.
All right, before we get into some player movement or potential player movement, we got two names to chat about. We're going to quickly revisit this idea of relegation in the WSL because I want to say many, many moons ago, it was, I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago, Allie, we talked about this because the idea of making the WSL a closed league kind of came to fruition. And a closed league meaning that there would be, like the NWSL, there's no relegation. This is your league and you can finish last and then we'll restart next year. So the idea came about, we talked about it on the podcast at length about like why it came about, what's happening. And we both agreed that this was a bad idea. And now it has reared its ugly head again, and it does not seem to be going away. Is it more likely now that the WSL will become a closed league?
It's gone one step further now, because before it was sort of like thrown out there with some crazy ideas like Rangers and Celtic coming and joining the WSL. Right. We'll do this now. So there is going to be a vote at the end of the season for the 24 clubs that currently make up the WSL and the Championship.
Which is been called NewCo. If you've heard NewCo, yes. Essentially what's happened, and we've covered this on the podcast, but in a brief description, the WSL and the Championship have now been placed under the umbrella of NewCo, and they are owned and operated by that singular company. But the idea is that they can do media deals together. It's a way to basically like package them together so that the Championship...
Collective bargaining.
Yeah, collective bargaining for players, for teams, for media deals, so that the Championship, because it is a great league, can continue to be brought up with the WSL, which I think is fantastic. I love the idea of NewCo.
But then they come up with ideas like this. So there's going to be a vote at the end of the season for the 24 clubs that are currently in the Championship and WSL about whether to make the WSL a closed league until 2030.
Ooh.
So that is 4 years. So the idea is that promotion will still happen. So teams can still get promoted from the Championship, but no teams will get relegated. So they're hoping that the idea, I believe, is to stop
it's their easy way to grow the league. It's their easy way for expansion.
Yes. And it's also to stop this straight up, straight down that we're seeing in the WSL at the moment. They think it's going to make teams invest more in their teams, but that's not going to happen. And we know that's not going to happen.
I mean, listen, I probably hate this less than you do because I am very pro WSL expansion.
Oh, no, I'm not against that beat. I'm against the no relegation beat.
Yeah, this league needs to be bigger. And I've said many times, it is absurd to me that one team gets promoted and one team gets regulated. You want to make this more competitive, top to bottom, WSL to Championship, relegate 3, promote 3, or start with 2. I don't care. But I've wanted that for a while. I don't hate the idea of this, like trying to eliminate the up down, because it does take a while for teams to get their footing in the WSL, and it does take an injection of cash,
which won't come. This is why I hate it so badly. I hate it so much because,
for the record, I'm still anti, because I don't think it should be a closed league, but I don't mind this brainstorm.
Yeah, but the reason I hate it so much is because let's be real here. Let's be really honest now.
Let's break it down.
Teams are currently investing the amount of money they are willing to invest already. Let's be honest about that. Like, at the moment, Daniel Levy at Tottenham's talks about how he won't invest more in Tottenham women unless there is a closed league. He won't do it anyway because he barely invests in the men's team. Teams will invest the amount of money they are currently willing. And for some teams like Chelsea, they are willing to invest much, much more and will, work it and make it viable. Arsenal will invest much, much more than, say, your West Hams, your Aston Villas, your Spurs. They just won't. And I don't see that amount of money growing if we close the league, because what I will see is teams that are historically 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th go, well, we can't go down. We can't lose that lucrative TV money that comes from playing in the WSL. So why bother? Why would we bother putting in more money? I just don't see teams. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum when you've got teams such as Birmingham and London City Lionesses who do put in a lot of money in the Championship. They do. Michelle Kang and her empire of football teams do. But then it's going to be a case of, is it going to be that, again, it's going to have that separation of 3 teams, Newcastle, Birmingham and London City, that are willing to put the money in, and the rest can't, because Durham certainly can't. They've got new owners, but their new owners' funds come from winning the lottery. And yes, they had a massive win on the lottery.
Honestly, good for them. That's what I would do if I won the lottery
too.
Great.
No, genuinely, I'm so excited about this. The fact that Durham's new owners came from the Euro. They won the Euro Millions, and the first thing they did was buy Durham.
That's
FC.
the most English thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's fantastic, but they haven't got infinite funds to then keep pumping in to get them. Like, that's the problem. So it's going to be that, will Newcastle just bypass everything and pay to go straight into, and it just becomes a whole mess. And the biggest problem for me, and the hugest problem, is this vote only needs 8 teams from each league to agree. Are you telling me that the top 4 will vote no and the bottom 8 will say yes?
And that's it.
Or in the Championship, it'll be the other way round. And it will go ahead.
It's like that's basically like a 2/3 majority in the WSL.
Or they will push it forward to the next stage, because you're telling me that you can go to Crystal Palace and go, hey, if you manage to get up next year, you won't go down. You won't. You know, you're telling me you're going to tell West Ham, you know what? You know, you've gone through a lot of relegation battles. You won't have to do that for the next 4 years.
You're right. I can very much see the top 4 clubs saying no and the bottom 4 being like, hell yeah.
And then we'll end up with a European Super League, which is what they're trying to do in the men's.
Yep.
It's just so messy. I'm like, if you want to expand
I agree.
the WSL, then do 3 up.
I was just about to say,
one
do
down.
3 up, 1 down. Promote 3, relegate 1. Yeah, there should still be an open flow and like a pyramid structure.
And then you can still get an even amount, I think, and then you can have more teams come up through the North and Southern Premier, which we've talked about. Check out our Patreon. But you can do that. There are so many better ways about growing the WSL rather than it just closing it to relegate. I don't like it.
Case in point, Allie just laid it all out. Allie's right. Moving on.
Allie's always... Oh, I'm loving this. Allie's getting right all the time now.
And finally, very quickly, let's touch on a couple players and some movement or anticipated movement. And we've got 2 to talk about. We've got to talk about Becky Spencer, who is officially going to Chelsea from Tottenham. And we need to talk about Manchester United and the Brazilian international, Jace. Allie, which would you like to start with?
I'm going to talk Jace first, because I have thoughts about the Becky Spencer one which are more comical than, and where the Jace one's quite serious. So we'll talk Jace. Let's do it because there's been some rumours for a long time that Jace has not been happy at Man United. She's not been happy with her level of training she's received. She's not been happy with the amount of game time she's had, and just generally it's not been a happy time for her at Man United. She then had the personal tragedy of her brother was died over Christmas, so she went back to Brazil to be with her family, go to the funeral and all of that. So it sort of died down for a bit, and then after the Leicester game she posted this massive message on Instagram about how her safe space isn't safe anymore and she doesn't feel, and like what should be giving her comfort is actually giving her a lot of trouble, and it's like giving her huge discomfort, and that she's trying her best to get on with it, but it's not good. The club then did an instant statement saying, we are supporting Jace the best way we can and we'll continue to do so.
Oh.
Yeah. And then,
that's always an uh-oh.
And then the story then came out a couple of hours later that it seemed that Man United were trying to get Jace transferred during January to an American club whilst she was dealing with the grief of her brother dying. Very Casey Stoney San Diego. That's a whole other thing we're not touching on. Where she doesn't have that autonomy. She's not in the right headspace to agree to this. And it's now looking like it's going to happen anyway, and she could be heading to New York, New Jersey, and Gotham maybe on the cards.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I don't have anything else to say but wow. Also, I think she do great things in the NWSL and at Gotham. Obviously, that's not the point, but
no,
that's the only other thing I have to add on. Wow. All right, we'll keep an update on that. And then finally, let's talk Becky Spencer, who has officially joined Chelsea.
So when I opened social media and I saw that, my first thoughts were, what the actual hell? Like,
I actually had the same thought because I saw a graphic and I was like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah,
like, what's going on?
I was like, April Fool's is not till next month. So
it does feel random. I can't put my finger on why it feels random because she's a great player.
But she hasn't been. That's what I'm saying. My stat at the moment is Tottenham conceding more goals than any other team apart from Crystal Palace. So basically the story is you need to have 3 goalkeepers for Champions League. Those are the rules. Those are the laws of Champions League. You need to have 3 fit goalkeepers for Champions League. Chelsea currently have 4 goalkeepers. One is Hampton.
Don't you love how Chelsea just hoards the best goalkeepers in the world?
Well,
just like, I'll take you and I'll take you and I put you in my attic until you're ready.
Basically. So you've basically got Hannah Hampton, who is doing bits and is fabulous. You've then got Musovic, who is currently preggo.
Right.
You've then
forgot Musovic announced very recently she was pregnant. Yeah.
Yep. Announced that she's pregnant. You've then got a very young 18-year-old who should not be playing Champions League football right now at the moment. In fact, I think they were looking to send her on loan. And then they signed a goalkeeper in the transfer window because obviously they knew that Musovic was pregnant, even if the rest of us didn't. And she got injured on international break. She has got a season-ending injury to her foot. So she is out of contention. So they only have 2 eligible goalkeepers. So they were allowed an emergency transfer.
And there lies the rub.
Which is the rules in football in the UK, that you can have an emergency transfer if a position is untenable, and they didn't have a spare goalkeeper.
Okay, so let me guess where you're going with this. You are wondering if you're Chelsea and you're allowed that, you wouldn't have gone with Spencer. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah,
I nailed it. Well, listen, there's the player side of it too, because the players are basically being offered a 3rd string position right now. And not a lot of goalkeepers are going to take that. I don't care who you're training with. Not a lot of goalkeepers are going to be pumped to take that. Yeah.
And I do understand that. But at the same time, I'm like, but that's clearly what they're banking on. I think that's why they've picked... Becky Spencer is ex-Chelsea. I'm going to say that out now. She was at Chelsea for a long time. Then she came to West Ham and then she went to Tottenham. So she was at Chelsea for a long time. They are clearly banking on the fact that she won't touch a blade of grass during this campaign. Clearly that is what...
mean to Becky.
but they are, because again, this season, I repeat, Tottenham have conceded more goals than any other team apart from Crystal Palace.
Year in goal.
And to be honest, this is a great move for Becky Spencer, because even if she is the 3rd string goalkeeper, she is now in line to possibly get a league winners medal for doing next to nothing, if nothing. And if Chelsea do manage to go all of the way, possibly get a Champions League medal for doing next to nothing, if not nothing. So this is fantastic for Becky Spencer, but I don't understand.
All sides. Becky Spencer was what I'm guessing happens. Becky Spencer was like, okay, I've been told I'm not going to play on the team that I'm on right now. I'm just going to train.
Yeah, because they've got Cop now.
So I might as well go train at Chelsea and go to some Champions League games. You know?
Yeah, it's great for Becky Spencer.
Hannah Hampton and train with these top goalkeeper coaches. Why not?
Oh, no, I get it. I do, but my goodness me. I was just like...
It was a head scratcher when I first opened my phone.
It was a head scratcher.
All right, that's it. We did it. We got through the WSL. A quick reminder for everybody. The NWSL technically starts on Friday. Now, that is not the regular season. The regular season starts next Friday. This Friday, the Challenge Cup will take place. It'll kick off this season. And a reminder, last year was the first year of this new structure of the Challenge Cup, in which it is not a cup. It is a game played by the winner of the NWSL.
I was like, you said this last week.
Oh, I
and
did.
You're like, it's not... You were like, no, but you were like, it's not a cup. It's a game. I'm like, well, what do you consider a cup then? A tournament? Because in our country, a cup is a trophy that you can win. So therefore, this is a cup.
Tournament in my mind. But that's an interesting distinction.
Because this is a trophy they can win.
If you call something a cup, there's got to be more than one game.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, because I was like, but they win something. There's silverware at the end of this.
Anyways, if I described this last week, maybe I don't have to do it again. But we're in the middle of it, so why not? The Challenge Cup format, the Shield winners, so the winners of the regular season, will play a game against the winners of the playoffs, the overall NWSL finals winners. Now, Orlando Pride won both of those, so Orlando will take on the number 2 team. That is Washington Spirit. It's going to be a fun one, everybody. That's this Friday, and then the regular season is next Friday. I can't believe it's already here, but it is. And it's going to be fun. Because a reminder, we're going to the first regular season where there was no draft. So let's see how it all unfolds. Is there still a high level of competition top to bottom? Is it still super competitive top to bottom? Who's going to be the new Orlando? I think it's going to be Houston. We'll see what happens. And we're going to do a lot about the NWSL next week and the following week. All right, that's it for this week for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. As always, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/TheWoso Show. There's some amazing content going up there that Allie already previewed at the top of this episode. So go check it out. It's fantastic. Couldn't recommend more. And it's like $3 per month. So make your coffee one day at home and support independent media. Now more than ever, in all ways, shape, and form, independent media is very important. Period. The end. Okay, that's it for our show this week. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.